Hey everybody. Today I'm going to synthesize a sound that we're all probably familiar with, the call of a cricket. I'm going to do this using basic subtractive synthesis modules such as oscillators, modulators, filters, and envelopes. And I'm going to be working with Animated East, Animated Instruments 3D Subtractive Synthesizer plugin. You do not need Animated East to follow along. You can totally achieve this with any synth that gives you oscillators, filters, envelopes, and LFOs, which is going to be covered by most software synths. But if you do want to follow along, you can grab the Animated East demo for free at the link below. So what is a cricket chirp? We probably take this sound for granted. The repetitive nature is easy for our brains to block off. And if our subconscious doesn't do the trick, closing that sliding door to the backyard usually does. The cricket's call is really not for us anyway. It's a communication signal often used by males to attract female crickets. But how does he make that sound? Now, digging into the cricket's physiology is going to give us our first clue as to how to emulate the cricket chirp. If we zoom into the underside of the cricket's wing, we're going to see a row of straight lines a bit like a comb. This is called the cricket's file. That repetition might make you think of a fast hi-hat or any sort of repetitive transient sound. And if we look to the right of the file, we're going to see a vertical band called the scraper. And this can be thought of as our strike or pluck. Insect researchers call this stridulation. Now, when the cricket shakes his wings up and down, that scraper is going to rapidly rub up against the file, creating these bursts of modulated noise. But now you might ask, why do we hear pitch? The reason for this is the speed, essentially creating oscillation. But the micro variations in speed will cause slight changes in pitch between the chirps. So let's outline exactly what we're going to need to synthesize this. First, we need to create the file, which is going to be a row of very fast transients. Then we need to design the scraper, an object that plucks this file repetitively. And then we need to introduce biology, or variation on the striking of the scraper. Let's start by constructing a row of transient clicks. Remember, the scraper rubs up against the wing, which generates bursts of oscillation. So a basic oscillator is a great place to start for our file. I'm going to initialize my synthesizer to triangle waves with a gentle ADSR ramp like this. Feel free to pause the video and try to match my basic patch before moving forward. Now I need a repetitive strike to create the individual file scrapes. You might be thinking that the amp envelope is perfect for this use case, and in a sense you're right. We could create a series of very fast notes and then loop them like this. But I think we can achieve a more elegant solution within the patch. Many synths, including Animated East, have a loopable auxiliary envelope that can be perfect for this use case. I can set the attack to the fastest value, and the release also pretty fast, about 5%, and then turn on the loop. Let's try this on oscillator 1's gain parameter and see what this sounds like. Let's see what adding this to the frequency sounds like too. This is a pretty nice basic emulation of the cricket's file and scraper physiology, and it even works kind of as is. However, I think it's a little bit predictable. A real organism, even one that moves as quickly as a cricket, will exhibit variation in its movements. Because we have two oscillators, I'm curious to see what it sounds like if we add a similar modulation and levels to the second oscillator. High filter resonance always reminds me of kind of organic life forms, and I'm curious to see what adding a bit of LFO modulation to the resonance control can do. Let's adjust the LFO and experiment with speeds and a few wave shapes. To recap, we emulated the cricket's file and scraper physiology by using an oscillator with a looping envelope. This envelope modulated the oscillator's gain and frequency controls. We repeated this with a second oscillator, adding variation on each oscillator's parameters for a more complex bass sound. And we experimented with LFO modulation on the filter's resonance to add a more organic filter response. Feel free to download Animated East or purchase a license at animatedinstruments.com. Purchase of a license includes a one-on-one virtual meeting for setting up the instrument, walking through synthesis approaches, and answering any questions you might have. My email is eric@animatedinstruments.com. Please let me know in the comments what sounds you would like to see synthesized next with Animated East, and thank you for watching.